While graphics are important and story is key, it's game mechanics that really determine if a game is fun to play. As I discovered when I pitched my game, Street Fighter, but it really punches you in real life, to Capcom last year. No vision, that's all I'll say. Over the years, there have been plenty of other games that introduce mechanics that are bad, confusing, or occasionally infuriating. And today we're here to shine a spotlight on some of our least favourite offenders that should be consigned to the flaming waste paper bin of history by game developers everywhere. So watch on for the worst game mechanics that just about everyone hated. Do you agree with our picks, or are there other mechanics that you'd be delighted to never see again? Let us know in the comments.
Yakuza Like a Dragon marked a bold new direction for the venerable Japanese crime series.
What's the matter? Do you want your milk or maybe your toy? Are you feeling fussy?
No, not that. They've always been like that. The big change was the fact that the game switched from a beat-em-up game in which your character fought hordes of enemies by themselves in real time to an RPG in which your character has a party of allies and combat is turn-based. Each character can take on various classes, with some suited to dealing out damage, while other characters are set up to buff the party and provide healing.
Let's do this together!
Some can even revive downed party members to bring them back into the fight.
Appreciate it.
All done!
So why, I am asking you, Ryuga Gotoku team, did you decide to include that mechanic where the game ends if the main character gets knocked out during a fight, even if the rest of his party is hale and hearty? Like a Dragon isn't the only game to do it, looking at you Persona 5, but it is the one I'm currently mad about. In the world of Like a Dragon, there's a fictional layer where they've tried to explain why combat is turn-based now, involving Ichiban's obsession with Dragon Quest and him fantasizing about being a knight during battles.
I am Ichiban, the Dragon Slayer!
So it's possible that that's the reason why things have to come to a screeching halt if Ichiban goes down. On a practical level, however, it makes zero sense, and as a player, it's unbelievably annoying to be 30 minutes or more into a tough boss battle during which other characters have been downed and revived multiple times, only for Ichiban to be downed by a one-hit KO move and the entire fight to be over. To make things worse, if you want to continue and try again, it'll cost you fully half of the money you've accumulated up to this point. So what's the deal? Is Ichiban such a positive guy that seeing him get punched to death bums everyone out so much that they stop fighting? Or does the entire Yakuza world cease to exist once Ichiban loses consciousness because it's all one big hallucination? I mean, that would actually make a lot of sense now that I say it out loud.
Most of the items on this list are things designed to add to the challenge of the game, but end up being actually extremely annoying. This one, however, I think is trying to be helpful, but just doing an extremely bad job. After all, it's important to know in video games when you're low on health, because it allows you to make educated decisions about what risks to take and hopefully prevents you suffering the inconvenient experience of dying. That's why games include things like a heartbeat noise, vignetting at the corners of the screen, or just a load of red splatters all over your face. You're either close to death or just a very messy eater. So yes, helping you, the player, understand that you are reaching the end of your health reserves is a vital service. The problem is when it's delivered in the form of an incessant, anxiety-inducing beeping noise like the one in The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Has Link hooked himself up to an ECG or something? This piercing, extremely unmagical sounding noise carries on until you secure some additional health, ensuring that process is as stressful and irritating as possible, which in turn is probably going to make it more likely that rather than finding some more health, you instead make a further mistake, and then Link's adventure ends with an extremely embarrassing and inglorious death. Yet another reason this series isn't called The Legend of Link.
Okay, here's the procedure. We go to the castle. First, we search you, confiscate any stolen goods. Then you pay your fine, and we release you.
I don't know about you, but in RPGs with a morality system, I struggle to play anything other than a heroic, good character. Well, unless I'm presented with a renegade action button prompt.
I understand you wasted your chance to withdraw safely.
The Dreadnought was a
No court in the galaxy would convict me. There is one exception to that rule. Even the most morally pure RPG players are filthy, rotten thieves. Whether it's a quest item, a chest full of treasure, or just someone's lunch, we have no compunction about helping ourselves. Hey, do you want the world saved or not? Heroes gotta eat. But in Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, there is a deterrent to being a thief. No, it's not being caught by a guard and hearing that "Stop, you violated the law" voice line for the 800th time.
Stop! You violated the law!
Yep, that's the one. No, the true deterrent to stealing absolutely everything that isn't nailed down is how much of a bastard the lockpicking minigame is in Oblivion. If you want to steal anything from a locked chest or a locked room, you'll have to grapple with one of the fiddliest minigames in gaming history. The minigame required you to stop each individual tumbler at the very top, but the rate at which it falls varies, making it difficult to predict, particularly as locks get harder and the falling speed becomes randomised. Worse still, when you get it wrong, there's a jarring crack as one of your precious lockpicks shatters, and in harder locks, all your progress is reset. Because who doesn't love a good old progress reset? There is an auto-attempt option, but its success rate isn't much better or worse than our own, though at least being able to hammer the button and chew through lockpicks like popcorn shortens the suffering before the lock eventually pings open. Quite frankly, I'd have found a nose-picking game less unpleasant.
Elden Ring is a game full of mysteries. Who killed E.G. the blacksmith? What is the purpose of the dancer's castanets? Why do I keep playing it when stuff like this happens all the time? While these mysteries are perplexing and steeped in the lore of the game, there's another mystery that you'll encounter during your time in the Lands Between, and that's the fact that some of the walls aren't real. But these illusory walls are clever, or at least as clever as a wall can be, because they do look and function like regular walls most of the time. Hit them with a weapon, however, and these walls will vanish, revealing new paths, new rooms, and new horrible things to smash you flat. While this sounds like a cool idea in theory, in practice, it's a nightmare. Especially for completionists who want to see everything that Elden Ring has to offer. For those folks, what this means is joylessly whacking or rolling into every wall that you come across on your adventures in the hope of finding the one in every 400 walls that is actually illusory. Ah, you're probably thinking, but players can leave messages for each other in Elden Ring. Surely helpful players will leave nice messages, letting their fellow adventurers know when they come across an illusory wall. Which is all I need to hear to know that you've never played Elden Ring. You should. It's good. Mostly. Anyway, the only thing Elden Ring players like more than helping other players out is trolling and screwing over other players. So for every one real message about an illusory wall, you get about 40 hilarious ones in front of a real wall that you're now going to roll into. Never gets old. So thanks From Software for this awful, awful mechanic. Still somehow not the most annoying thing in Elden Ring. That would be trying to climb down a cliff. I would take the long way round, but it's full of giant fire golems. You can see my dilemma.
Bohan's reinforced his troops with catapults. We found a working cannon. Cover us while we stage a retreat to the west.
The year was 2007. The Nintendo Wii was riding high, and motion controls were the new hotness. If you weren't waggling something around to play a game, were you even playing a game? I don't think you were. Sony, with their likewise new PlayStation 3, were on that motion control tip with the motion sensing 6-axis controller. So, you know if you're launching a PS3 exclusive game in 2007, it had better have some PS3 exclusive 6-axis motion control. Enter Heavenly Sword. In many ways, the perfect hack-and-slash action adventure, Heavenly Sword was like God of War if Kratos had legs for days and hair for days.
My clan believed this sword was forged in heaven for a deity.
Developed by Ninja Theory, the studio that would go on to give us Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, Heavenly Sword had blockbuster production value like nobody's business, with a classic Serkian performance from Andy Serkis.
Stop playing with her and kill the wretched girl!
Meanwhile, flame-haired, sword-having heroine Noriko was played by personal fave Anna Torv.
I know it's death I'm holding now. Did I ever have a choice?
So far, so good, is what someone playing Heavenly Sword said, right up until they got to the first bit in the game where you fired a projectile and then had to use the motion sensing in the 6-axis controller to steer that projectile wherever it needed to go. At multiple points in the game, you were faced with the aggravating gimmick of trying to guide an arrow or a cannonball to its target by tilting your controller in precisely the right fashion, which you didn't know what that was, and nor seemingly did the game. This 6-axis aftertouch system was, in a word, bad. In several words, it was frustrating and finicky and felt tacked on for no good reason. And imagine the joy of discovering you could disable motion control in the game menu and just do these bits with good old thumbsticks. The way God intended. Oh, he hates motion controls.
Left now.
Why are you
Don't ever
Take him to the
look at me. You even blink my way, and I'll send you straight. Move! But you must stop. Let me open it for you, cold meat.
The human body has an excellent thing called the autonomic nervous system, which automatically takes care of vital functions, like breathing. At least until I mention that, and you have to start breathing manually. Oh no, I did it to myself. Blinking is another of those automatic processes that we don't tend to have to think about unless we just accidentally did it while taking a passport photo. What's more, there's such a thing as being too realistic. First-person video game characters don't tend to blink at all, for basically the same reason you don't need to break off from your first-person shooter campaign to stop and take a leak.
Now the flowers will grow.
Postal 2 is the exception to quite a lot of rules, most of them involving taste and decency. Horror reboot Alone in the Dark, released in 2008, decided to innovate in that regard by not just making blinking something that your character Edward Carnby could do, but assigning a specific button to it, namely clicking in the right stick. Blinking is something you had to do throughout the first chapter of the game. Fail to do it and the screen would get progressively blurrier, as if your eyeballs were rapidly dehydrating. until you couldn't see anything, something that probably put a decent amount of players off playing the game at all. What am I, the blinking guy meme? Later in the game, the level of mandatory blinking required was scaled back to situations where you were either sprayed in the face with poison or when you were close to death. But the fact remains that this is a mechanic that was almost unanimously despised by players who had enough to deal with without having to take on functions that should be being taken care of by Edward Carnby's own brain stem. Fortunately, when the series was rebooted again in 2024, in the version starring David Harbour and Jodie Comer, manual blinking was not part of the gameplay, meaning we could all breathe a sigh of relief. Oh no, it's happening again.
The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is the most realistic Zelda game yet, by which I mean you can whack something with your weapon about 4 times before it shatters like a crystal swan thrown off a 10th story balcony. Other ways in which Breath of the Wild is annoyingly realistic include being struck by lightning when it's raining, and most relatable to my own life, the ability to accidentally cook extremely bad food. Worst of all these realistic mechanics in Breath of the Wild, however, relates to raining, but is somehow more punishing than being struck by lightning. Usually in Breath of the Wild, climbing is governed by your stamina wheel. You can climb for as long as your stamina wheel lasts, and when it's gone, you fall off. Very straightforward. However, when it's raining in Breath of the Wild, suddenly all that goes out of the window, along with several houseplants and probably my Nintendo Switch, because this is the most infuriating mechanic in Zelda history. Now when you try to climb, Link will continually slip down whatever surface you're on, making climbing things almost impossible. And I don't know if you've tried going anywhere in Breath of the Wild without climbing the many vertical rock surfaces you'll be confronted with on your way, but brother, that ain't happening. There are various items you can get that mitigate this effect somewhat, but by default, anytime it rains, you're better off just standing still and waiting for it to stop than attempting to get anywhere on foot. Still, at least nothing bad can happen to you when you're standing still in a big empty field. Oh, right.
Thank you so much for watching this video, brought to you by Outside Xbox. If you'd like to watch more stuff from us, we have a video up here from Outside Xbox and down here from sister channel Outside Extra, which we think you'll like. And please do like and subscribe. It still helps, even in this world of YouTube 2025. So yeah, much appreciated, and thank you for watching. Bye.